Imagine standing at the edge of a dilapidated structure, the air thick with a sense of dread, and the remnants of a past, long-forgotten whispering tales of horror. Welcome to the old Slaughterhouse in Poland, a place where shadows dance in the flickering light of your flashlight, and the ground beneath your feet seems to pulse with the weight of countless lost souls. This isn't just an abandoned building, it's a graveyard of memories, a site where life was extinguished in brutal ways, and now it stands as a haunting reminder of what once transpired within its blood-soaked walls. The locals know better than to wander too close to this forsaken place. They speak in hushed tones about the legends that have been passed down through generations, stories that send chills down the spine. They say the slaughterhouse was once a thriving hub, a grim monument to the meat industry that fed the region. But with prosperity came darkness. Accounts of horrific practices emerged, rumors of workers who went missing after digging too deep into the secrets of the place. Some claim to have seen ghostly figures wandering the grounds at night, their faces twisted in agony, trapped in a cycle of eternal suffering. What draws me here, then? A morbid curiosity, perhaps? The thrill of uncovering the truth behind these chilling tales? As I approach the entrance, the iron gates creak eerily, a warning echoing through the stillness. My heart races with anticipation and fear, but I push forward. This is a place where history bleeds into the present, and I am determined to uncover its secrets. With every step I take, the oppressive atmosphere wraps around me like a suffocating shroud. The graffiti that decorates the walls tells a story of its own, remnants of vandalism mixing with the natural decay of time. But there's something else, a more sinister undercurrent that makes my skin crawl. Each crunch of broken glass beneath my feet feels like a reminder that I'm not alone. This place is alive in its own twisted way, and the stories of the vanished linger like a fog, ready to ensnare anyone daring enough to step inside. As I venture deeper, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. The air grows colder and a shiver runs down my spine. Shadows flit at the edges of my vision, but whenever I turn to look, there's nothing there, just the oppressive silence of abandonment. I can't help but think of the people who worked here, those who may have met their fates in ways I can't begin to imagine. Did they sense the dread that permeated this place? Did they hear the whispers of the damned echoing in the night? Local legends speak of a figure, a specter seen wandering the slaughterhouse grounds, dressed in the tattered remnants of a worker's uniform. Some say he seeks revenge for the suffering endured, while others believe he's searching for the souls of his comrades, lost to the horrors that transpired within these walls. The idea sends a wave of unease through me. What if this figure is waiting for me? I feel the pull of the unknown, an irresistible urge to uncover what lies beneath the surface of these dark tales. But I must warn you, dear viewer, this journey may not lead to comfort, but to revelations that could haunt your very dreams. If you're intrigued by what lies ahead, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Join me as I delve into the chilling depths of this slaughterhouse and the mysteries that cloak it in darkness. With my heart pounding and my flashlight flickering, I step into the abyss, ready to confront the shadows of the past. Will I uncover the truth behind the disappearances? Or will I become just another ghost story whispered among the locals? Stay tuned as the exploration of the old slaughterhouse in Poland begins. Let's unravel the fabric of fear together. The moment I first heard the tales of the old slaughterhouse, an unsettling thrill coursed through me. I was sitting in a dimly lit tavern on the outskirts of town, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and cheap beer. The locals were huddled together, their voices hushed as they exchanged stories that danced on the edge of disbelief and fear. I listened intently, captivated by their accounts of the slaughterhouse, a place where life met its cruel end, only to give rise to whispers of the restless dead. One man, his face weathered and eyes haunted, leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You don't want to go there after dark," he warned, his fingers trembling around his glass. "People say you can hear the cries of the animals and even the laughter of those who worked there, laughter that turns to screams." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. Some have disappeared without a trace. It's not just an old building, it's a graveyard for the souls lost to its horrors. With each story, my curiosity grew stronger, intertwining with the thrill of the unknown. Was it sheer madness or courage that pushed me to consider venturing into that forsaken place? Perhaps a little of both. I could feel the pull of the slaughterhouse, an almost magnetic attraction that beckoned me to uncover its secrets. But skepticism gnawed at the edges of my mind. Was it all just folklore, exaggerated by fear and fueled by the dark nature of human imagination? I wanted to find out for myself, to face the truths hidden behind those crumbling walls. Days passed, but the stories lingered like a haunting melody, and I found myself standing at the precipice of a decision. Should I embark on this quest alone? It was a question I tossed around in my mind, weighing the thrill of adventure against the very real dangers of what I might encounter. Yet the idea of dragging someone along felt wrong. This was my journey, a test of courage that needed to be faced head-on, without the safety net of another person's presence. With a heart racing in my chest and a mind buzzing with anticipation, I gathered my gear. A flashlight, extra batteries, and a recorder, equipment that would capture every sound and shadow I might encounter. I envisioned myself standing within the slaughterhouse, the cold air swirling around me and the whispers of the past calling out to be heard. The thought both exhilarated and terrified me. As night fell, the world outside transformed. The shadows lengthened, and a thick mist rolled in, wrapping the town in a shroud of eerie silence. I found myself standing before the iron gates of the slaughterhouse, their rusted bars standing like sentinels guarding the secrets within. My breath hung in the air, a reminder of my humanity amidst the forgotten horrors that lay just beyond. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of the stories pressing down on me, but then a surge of determination coursed through my veins. I was here for a reason. With a firm grip on my flashlight, I pushed the gate open, the sound of creaking metal echoing into the night. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped inside, the darkness swallowing me whole. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of decay and memories, as I ventured deeper into the bowels of the slaughterhouse. What would I discover? Would I encounter the phantoms of the past, or would I find that the legends were mere tales crafted to scare the faint-hearted? Each step I took felt like a heartbeat in the silence, a countdown to the unknown. There was no turning back now. As I crossed the threshold into the heart of the slaughterhouse, I felt the weight of history pressing against me, urging me to uncover the truths hidden within. Driven by a mix of skepticism and a thirst for adventure, I was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The journey had begun, and I was determined to unearth the reality of the slaughterhouse, no matter how chilling it might be. As I approached the old slaughterhouse, the weight of the night pressed heavily on my shoulders. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light filtering through the thick veil of mist that clung to the ground like a shroud. The structure loomed ahead, a grotesque silhouette against the starless expanse, its decaying walls etched with stories of torment and despair. Every step brought me closer to the threshold of a forgotten world, a realm where the echoes of the past intertwined with the chilling present. The iron gates groaned in protest as I pushed them open, sending a shiver down my spine. The air inside was thick and stale, a heavy blanket of forgotten memories that seemed to suffocate the very essence of life. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest as I stood on the threshold. The darkness yawned before me, a gaping maw that beckoned me to step inside. With a deep breath, I crossed the threshold, feeling the coolness seep into my bones. The interior of the slaughterhouse was a labyrinth of shadows and decay. Crumbling walls dripped with moisture, the scent of dampness mingling with something far more sinister, an acrid aroma that whispered of blood and suffering. I fumbled for my flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife, revealing fragments of a long-forgotten past. Old, rusted tools lay scattered about, saws, knives, and chains that had once been instruments of death, now left to decay in silence. Strange sounds echoed through the empty halls, each creak and groan of the building sending ripples of unease through my body. The sound of dripping water resonated like the distant echoes of a tortured soul, while the wind howled outside, creating a symphony of dissonance that felt almost alive. I paused, listening intently, and for a fleeting moment, I could have sworn I heard something else. A faint whisper, barely discernible, weaving its way through the oppressive silence. With each step I took deeper into the slaughterhouse, the atmosphere thickened, heavy with an unshakable tension. The air felt electric, charged with a sense of foreboding that sent goosebumps racing across my skin. I glanced around, my flashlight illuminating the remnants of the slaughterhouse's grim history. Faded photographs hung crookedly on the walls, capturing moments of life in a place that had become a tomb. The faces stared back at me, eyes hollow and filled with a despair that seemed to seep from the very walls. As I ventured further, the layout became a maze of narrow passageways and dark corners. The floorboards creaked under my weight, each sound echoing ominously in the stillness. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me, the sensation prickling at the nape of my neck. Were the stories true? Were the spirits of those who had suffered still trapped within these walls, waiting for someone to bear witness to their plight? Suddenly, a sharp clattering noise startled me, reverberating through the silence like a gunshot. I swung my flashlight in the direction of the sound, my heart racing. Was it just a rat, or something more sinister? My breath quickened, a cocktail of adrenaline and fear surging through me. The shadows around me shifted, dancing in the flickering light, and I struggled to steady my racing heart. I pressed on, driven by a mixture of dread and curiosity. The deeper I went, the more I felt like an intruder in a haunted sanctuary, stepping into a world where the veil between life and death was paper-thin. Every corner I turned seemed to reveal another secret, another reminder of the suffering that had taken place here. It was as if the building itself was alive, breathing in the anguish of its past, waiting for someone to unlock the door to its tortured history. The slaughterhouse in all its grim glory was a haunting paradox, a place of life reduced to death, a sanctuary turned prison for lost souls. With each heartbeat, I felt the air grow thicker, the whispers of the past wrapping around me like a cold embrace. There was no turning back now. I had entered a realm where the echoes of history were woven into the very fabric of the building, and I was determined to uncover the truth behind its chilling stories. With each cautious step deeper into the heart of the slaughterhouse, I felt as if I were peeling back layers of time, revealing the ghastly truths buried beneath years of decay. My flashlight flickered over the walls, illuminating remnants of a harrowing past that whispered tales of suffering and despair. It was as if the very air had absorbed the memories, each breath heavy with the weight of forgotten horrors. The first thing that caught my eye was an array of old tools, scattered haphazardly on a long, dusty workbench. Rusted saws, their blades dulled from disuse, lay alongside heavy cleavers that once glinted with the promise of a quick end. I picked one up, feeling the cold metal against my palm, and a wave of nausea washed over me. These weren't mere tools. They were instruments of death, used to silence the cries of countless animals that had passed through these doors. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. As I continued my exploration, I noticed something else, a series of photographs tacked to the wall yellowed with age. Each image depicted scenes from a bygone era. Workers in grimy aprons, their faces obscured by shadows, posing with carcasses that hung from hooks. I squinted at one photo in particular, a group of men laughing as they brandished their tools with pride, oblivious to the cruelty that unfolded around them. It struck me as unsettling. They seemed almost too jovial for a place steeped in death. What kind of darkness lurked behind their smiles? I stepped closer, my eyes scanning the faded images for any hint of the horrors that lay beneath the surface. I could feel the weight of the history pressing down on me, urging me to dig deeper. A sudden chill swept through the room, raising the hair on my arms. It was then I noticed the bloodstains, splotches of dried crimson that marred the floorboards, remnants of a violent past that had been all but forgotten. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I realized that these stains told a story of pain, of lives snuffed out in the name of industry. As I moved through the dimly lit corridors, I uncovered more artifacts from the slaughterhouse's grim history. A rusted animal cage stood in a corner, its bars bent and twisted as if a desperate creature had fought for its freedom. I couldn't help but wonder about the countless animals that had been confined here, their cries echoing through the halls as they awaited their fate. Did the workers feel any remorse, or had they grown numb to the suffering around them? In a small room at the back, I discovered something that sent chills racing down my spine. Etched into the walls were symbols, arcane markings that hinted at dark rituals. My heart raced as I examined the bizarre glyphs, each one appearing more sinister than the last. Rumors had circulated among the townsfolk, tales of the workers engaging in secret ceremonies, invoking spirits to ensure a bountiful catch. Had they sought the favor of forces beyond comprehension? Or had they simply succumbed to the madness that this place exuded? Suddenly, a memory flickered to life. A story I'd heard at the tavern about a worker who had gone missing after dabbling in those very rituals. The locals spoke of him as a cautionary tale, a warning that some secrets should remain buried. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me, as if the spirits of those lost souls were still wandering these halls, longing for justice or perhaps vengeance. The atmosphere grew heavy, almost suffocating as I continued my exploration. I realized I was no longer just an observer. I had become a part of the Slaughterhouse's legacy. With every artifact I uncovered, the weight of its history pressed against me, pulling me deeper into its dark embrace. I could almost hear the whispers of the past calling out, urging me to remember what had transpired within these walls. It became clear to me that this was not merely a location. It was a monument to suffering, a testament to the cruelty that had unfolded in the shadows. The stories of mistreatment, the rituals of desperation, and the laughter that had echoed off the walls all converged into a chilling realization. The slaughterhouse was alive with memories, and it demanded to be heard. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood amidst the remnants of its dark past, knowing that I was on the precipice of uncovering something far more profound than I had ever anticipated. Would I emerge unscathed, or would the spirits of the slaughterhouse claim me as their own? The answer lay ahead, shrouded in the darkness that awaited me. As I delved deeper into the bowels of the slaughterhouse, the air around me thickened, wrapping itself around me like a heavy cloak. I was no longer just an explorer. I had become a part of the very fabric of this place, a witness to the echoes of its dark history. But soon, I began to sense that I was not alone. An unsettling energy crackled in the air, a whisper of something that lurked just beyond the veil of perception. The first hint of strangeness came without warning. As I stood in a dimly lit corridor examining a tattered old apron that hung limply from a nail, a sudden chill swept through the room. It felt as though the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in an instant, and the air turned crisp against my skin. My breath hung in front of me, visible like fog on a winter morning. I glanced around, heart pounding, half expecting to see someone watching me. But there was nothing, just the oppressive silence that seemed to seep into my bones. I continued onward, though every fiber of my being urged me to turn back. The atmosphere grew increasingly heavy, and shadows danced just out of the corner of my eye. I could swear I saw movement, a flicker of darkness skimming across the floor, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. I rubbed my eyes, convincing myself it was nothing more than a trick of the light. Yet the deeper I ventured, the more pronounced these phenomena became. In one of the larger rooms, I spotted what seemed to be a figure standing at the far end. My heart raced as I swung my flashlight in its direction. The beam illuminated a tall, gaunt shape that stood motionless, draped in shadows. It appeared to wear a faded work apron, its features obscured by the darkness. I blinked, and just like that, it vanished, leaving behind only the echo of my own shallow breathing and the oppressive stillness of the slaughterhouse. Had I truly seen someone? Or was my mind playing tricks on me? The whispers began soon after, soft and insistent, like the rustling of leaves in a breeze. At first, they were just background noise, but they grew clearer with each passing moment. I strained to catch the words, but they were always just out of reach, swirling around me in a ghostly symphony. I felt as if the walls were alive, breathing in sync with the murmurs, recounting their tragic tales in a language I could almost understand. In another room, I discovered a section filled with old cages, rusted and empty, their bars caked with dirt and grime. A sudden wave of sorrow washed over me, heavy and thick, as if the weight of countless lost souls lingered there. As I stood among the cages, the temperature plummeted again, and the whispers intensified. I felt a presence behind me, a cold breath against my neck that made my skin crawl. I turned quickly, but again there was nothing, just the rustling shadows that seemed to mock my fear, and then it happened. I glanced down at my feet and saw a shadow dart across the floor, a dark form moving with an unnatural speed. I crouched down, heart racing, and peered into the darkness, my flashlight beam trembling in my grasp. In that moment, I thought I caught a glimpse of a small animal, a ghostly figure of what might have been a cow or a pig, its eyes wide with terror. The image flickered and vanished, leaving behind only the chill that clung to the air. Was it a spirit of an animal lost to this place, forever bound to the horrors it had endured? Just when I thought I might lose my nerve, I spotted another figure in the corner of my eye. A man, tall and stooped, standing near a rusted meat hook. His face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel his sorrow. The air around him shimmered, and I realized I was witnessing the spirit of a former worker, perhaps one of those who had participated in the dark rituals whispered about in town. I could feel the weight of his gaze on me, a mixture of regret and longing that pierced through the air like a knife. "Help us," the whispers urged, echoing in my mind. "Help us find peace." In that moment, I understood that the slaughterhouse was not merely a haunted relic. It was a graveyard for lost souls, both animal and human, bound together by the suffering that had unfolded within these walls. The strange encounters I had experienced were not just figments of my imagination. They were the remnants of a past that sought to be remembered, a plea for recognition from the very depths of despair. As I stood there, surrounded by shadows and whispers, I felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. I had come to uncover the truths of the slaughterhouse, but now it seemed that I had been chosen to bear witness to its tragedies, to give a voice to those who had been silenced. Would I have the courage to unravel the mystery that lay before me, or would I become another lost soul within this dark and twisted history? The night was far from over, and I knew that the shadows had many more stories to tell. The atmosphere inside the slaughterhouse shifted dramatically, a palpable tension saturating the air as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling around me. I had ventured deeper than I ever intended, drawn by the haunting whispers and flickering shadows. But now, I sensed that something had changed. An unseen presence seemed to close in on me, an ominous weight bearing down like the stillness before a storm. My heart raced as I ventured into a larger chamber, its walls towering and oppressive, remnants of rusting machinery looming in the dim light. It was here that I felt the energy around me twist and pulse, an electric charge that ignited every instinct in my body. The whispers I had heard before escalated into a cacophony, a whirlwind of cries and sobs echoing through the darkness. I could hardly make sense of the sounds. It felt as though the very souls of the slaughtered were clamoring for my attention, their despair resonating with my own rising panic. Suddenly, I caught sight of movement at the edges of my vision. Dark figures flitting through the shadows, their forms indistinct but undeniably real. I turned sharply, my flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, but nothing met my gaze. My breath quickened, and my pulse thundered in my ears. The whispers morphed into anguished cries, the sound of desperation reverberating off the walls. I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to block out the growing din, but it was futile. The sorrowful wails seeped into my very being, each cry like a dagger driving deeper into my heart. "Help us! Help us!" they seemed to chant, a desperate chorus that filled the chamber. I felt the floor tremble beneath my feet, as if the weight of the spirits was pressing down, urging me to acknowledge their plight. Just as I thought I might collapse under the overwhelming sensation of dread, a sudden vision pierced through the shadows, a fleeting glimpse of faces, twisted in terror, eyes wide with fear. They were the missing people, the souls of those who had vanished without a trace. I staggered back, gasping as their cries echoed in my mind. "We are trapped. We are lost." The phantoms swirled around me, their translucent forms flickering like candle flames in the wind. I could see the anguish etched on their faces, a reflection of the horrors they had endured within these walls. They reached out, their hands grasping at nothing, as if pleading for someone to release them from their torment. In that moment, panic surged through me, a visceral fear that ignited every survival instinct. I turned to flee, but the shadows seemed to shift and twist, blocking my path. The very air thickened around me, and I felt a constriction in my chest, as if the building itself was constraining my escape. The cries intensified, swirling into a chaotic crescendo that filled the chamber with a suffocating dread. "Please, help us," one voice called out, louder than the others, and I could feel its urgency pressing against my mind. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as the shadows coalesced into a more defined form, a ghostly figure of a woman, her expression a mixture of sorrow and fury. She stepped forward and the temperature plummeted. I could see her breath misting in the air. "Why have you come here?" she whispered, her voice echoing with an ancient sorrow that sent chills down my spine. "Do you seek to unveil our secrets, to uncover the truth of what happened? What?" I opened my mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I was consumed by the overwhelming sensation of being trapped, ensnared in a web of lost souls clamoring for release. I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing off the cold stone walls, desperate to escape the relentless pursuit of the spectral figures that seemed to follow me, their cries trailing in my wake. As I sprinted through the dimly lit corridors, I could feel the air grow heavier with each passing second, pressing against me like an invisible force. I ducked into a narrow passageway, hoping to lose the phantoms in the labyrinthine depths of the slaughterhouse. But the cries grew louder, more frantic, echoing off the walls like a relentless symphony of despair. "Help us, we are forgotten." They reverberated through my mind, and I felt the pull of their anguish drawing me back. My thoughts raced. Could I truly abandon these souls to their fate? Or was I merely an intruder in their tragic tale, a vessel for their suffering? I burst into an open area, breathless and panicked, searching for an escape from the unrelenting shadows. The cries morphed into a final agonizing scream that shattered the silence, filling the chamber with a piercing horror that resonated deep within my soul. As I stumbled, desperate to find a way out, I felt the darkness closing in around me, a tangible force that threatened to pull me into the depths of its despair. In that heart-stopping moment, I understood that the slaughterhouse was not just a relic of the past. It was a living nightmare, a manifestation of suffering and sorrow that demanded recognition. The spectral figures reached out for me, their faces a haunting reminder of the lives lost within these walls, urging me to confront the truth and give voice to their silent screams. Would I find the strength to uncover their stories? Or would I become yet another lost soul trapped in this haunted place? The answer awaited me, hidden within the shadows that continued to dance in the corners of my vision. As I stumbled out of the slaughterhouse, the night air hit me like a cold wave, washing over my clammy skin and bringing with it a semblance of clarity. The oppressive weight of the building seemed to cling to me, an unsettling reminder of the horrors I had just encountered. My heart raced, still echoing the frantic beat of my escape, and my mind reeled with the revelations I had unearthed within those decaying walls. I had stepped into a realm where the past refused to remain buried, where the spirits of the lost intertwined with the very fabric of the present. The journey back to my vehicle felt surreal. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the landscape, and the shadows danced mockingly in the light. I could still hear the whispers in my mind, the cries of the forgotten resonating deep within my soul. Each step away from the slaughterhouse felt like an act of defiance against the darkness that threatened to engulf me. I had survived, but at what cost? The experience had changed me in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. Sitting in my car, the engine humming softly, I glanced back at the towering structure looming in the distance. It stood as a grim sentinel, guarding the secrets of its past. In that moment, I realized that the slaughterhouse was more than just a haunted relic. It was a symbol of the darker side of humanity, a stark reminder of our capacity for cruelty, both to each other and to the innocent creatures that inhabit this world. What had once been a place of livelihood had transformed into a landscape of despair, a haunting ground for lost souls. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had merely scratched the surface of something far more profound. The spirits of those who had suffered there weren't just echoes of the past. They were cries for acknowledgement, for justice. What haunted this place wasn't solely the remnants of forgotten lives, but also the weight of history, the collective guilt and suffering that lingered long after the physical evidence had faded. It made me reflect on our connection to such locations, the places we often dismiss as mere myths or legends, yet hold the weight of real human experiences. We tread lightly over the remnants of our history, often failing to recognize the ghosts of our actions. What does it say about us that we can overlook the pain embedded in the very ground we walk upon? Are we so eager to move forward that we neglect to honor the past, to confront the shadows that linger just beneath the surface? I thought about the stories shared by the locals, the chilling accounts that had drawn me into that dark realm. They spoke of disappearances, of figures seen darting between the shadows, and whispers carried on the wind. What if these were not just tales meant to frighten, but rather a reflection of the pain and suffering that had permeated the area? The slaughterhouse wasn't just a haunted building, it was a repository of memories, of lives lost and silenced, begging for recognition. With each mile that put distance between me and that forsaken place, I felt a mixture of relief and unease. The experience had left its mark on me, igniting a desire to delve deeper into the stories that shaped our world. I couldn't help but wonder, what other places were haunted by their pasts? What other stories lay hidden, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover the truth? As I reached the outskirts of town, I looked back one last time at the slaughterhouse, now just a silhouette against the night sky. An open-ended question lingered in my mind. What truly haunts this place? Is it the lost souls of those who suffered? Or is it the collective conscience of humanity, wrestling with the darker aspects of our nature? I encourage you, dear viewers, to reflect on these questions as well. Consider the stories behind the places we often dismiss as mere folklore. What connections do we share with these sites of sorrow? How can we confront the shadows of our past to shape a more compassionate future? The answers may lie in the whispers of the forgotten, waiting for us to listen and learn from their tales. As I wrap up this chilling tale of the haunted slaughterhouse, I hope it has left you pondering the darker sides of humanity and the stories that linger in forgotten places. If you enjoyed this eerie journey and want to hear more tales that delve into the mysterious and the macabre, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world and helps keep these stories alive. I also want to hear from you. What do you think haunts the places we often overlook? Have you ever encountered a location with a chilling history? Drop your suggestions for new stories in the comments below. Let's explore the shadows together and uncover the secrets that await us. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the truth behind the mysteries that surround us.